The night was heavy, the kind of darkness that feels like it has weight pressing against your chest with every breath. A storm brewed in the distance, lightning clawing at the sky, thunder growling low and deep, like a beast waking from slumber. And there he stood, Macbeth, on the edge of something vast and unknowable, his heart pounding not just with fear but with something far more dangerous, desire. It began with whispers. 3 voices, rasping and strange, rising out of the mist like shadows given sound. They called him by name, though how they knew it he could not say. "Hail, Macbeth," they crooned, their words dripping with honeyed poison. "Thane of Glamis, Thane of Cawdor, King hereafter." The titles rolled off their tongues like prophecy carved into stone, unshakable, inevitable. He laughed at first, brushing them aside as madwomen playing tricks. But then the king's messenger arrived, breathless, bearing news. The traitorous Thane of Cawdor had been executed, and the title now belonged to Macbeth. His laughter died in his throat. Could it be true? Could fate itself bend its knee to him? Ambition is a curious thing. It starts small, a flicker of flame in the dark. But once fed, it grows ravenous, consuming everything in its path. That night, as Macbeth rode home to his castle, the seed planted by the witches took root in his mind. At first, it whispered softly, almost shyly. Just what if? By the time he reached his wife, Lady Macbeth, the question had grown into a roar. She saw it in his eyes before he even spoke, a fire burning so brightly it threatened to consume him whole. And instead of quenching it, she fanned the flames. Lady Macbeth was no ordinary woman. Where others might have hesitated, she dove headfirst into the abyss. When Macbeth wavered, trembling under the weight of what must be done, she became steel. "Screw your courage to the sticking place," she told him, her voice cold and sharp as a blade. Her resolve terrified him, not because it was cruel, but because it mirrored his own longing, stripped bare of all pretense. Together, they plotted the unthinkable, the murder of Duncan, their king, their guest, their liege. It would be quick, clean, perfect. Or so they thought. The deed unfolded in silence, broken only by the creak of floorboards beneath Macbeth's boots as he crept through the sleeping castle. Duncan lay still, unaware of the shadow looming over him. The dagger gleamed in the moonlight, trembling in Macbeth's hand. For a moment he hesitated. Was this truly the man who had praised him, honored him, trusted him? Could he really spill innocent blood for the sake of power? But then he remembered the witch's words, the promise of greatness, the hunger gnawing at his soul. And he struck. When it was done, when the life drained from Duncan's body and left only emptiness behind, Macbeth felt nothing. No triumph, no relief, no satisfaction. Just an overwhelming void, yawning wider with each passing second. He stumbled back to his chambers, his hands slick with blood, his mind spinning wildly. "Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand?" he muttered, staring at his palms as though they belonged to someone else. Lady Macbeth tried to steady him, tried to remind him of the prize they had won. But even she couldn't mask the tremor in her voice as she scrubbed Duncan's blood from the daggers, planting them firmly in the hands of the guards. Morning came too soon, bringing with it chaos and suspicion. The castle erupted in cries of betrayal and grief, the air thick with accusations. Macbeth played his part well, feigning shock and outrage, stepping forward to claim vengeance for the fallen king. One swift stroke of his sword silenced the guards before they could speak, sealing their guilt and his secret in blood. As the crown settled upon his brow, he should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt hollow, as though the weight of it might crush him entirely. But the crown was only the beginning. Power demands loyalty, and loyalty demands sacrifice. Banquo, his closest friend, became a threat simply by existing. The witch's prophecy loomed large in Macbeth's mind. Banquo's line would inherit the throne, not his own. So he ordered the murder of the one man who had stood beside him through every battle, every trial. Yet even as Banquo fell, his ghost rose in Macbeth's mind, haunting him during a banquet meant to celebrate his reign. The other lords watched in horror as Macbeth raged at empty air, screaming at a phantom only he could see. Madness, it seemed, had found its way to him after all. And then there was Lady Macbeth. Once the architect of their ambition, she now unraveled before his eyes. Sleep eluded her, replaced by restless nights filled with murmurs of guilt. "Out, damned spot!" she cried, scrubbing furiously at invisible stains on her skin. Her descent into madness mirrored his own, though hers was quieter, more insidious. While Macbeth waged war against enemies real and imagined, she waged war within herself, until finally, the strain broke her completely. By the time the armies gathered outside his gates, Macbeth was no longer the man he had once been. Paranoia had twisted him into something unrecognizable, a creature driven by fear and desperation. Yet even as the walls crumbled around him, he clung to the witch's final promise. No man born of woman could harm him. It was a fragile thread of hope, fraying with each passing moment, yet he held on to it with all the strength he had left. Until the day a warrior named Macduff stepped forward, revealing the truth that would undo him. He had been torn from his mother's womb, untethered from the natural order of things. The revelation struck Macbeth like a blade to the gut, cold and merciless. His knees buckled under the weight of it, but he forced himself to stand. What was left for him now? Hope had abandoned him, yet defiance burned in his chest, a last ember refusing to die. If this was how it ended, then so be it. He would meet his fate not as a coward cowering behind walls, but as a warrior facing the storm head-on. The battlefield was chaos incarnate, screams tearing through the air, steel clashing against steel, blood painting the earth crimson. But amidst the cacophony, Macbeth moved with eerie focus, cutting down foe after foe, each swing of his sword fueled by desperation and fury. The prophecy mocked him still. Every man he faced seemed born of woman, their deaths meaningless in the grand design. Yet deep down he knew the end was near. It wasn't fear that gripped him anymore, but something colder, heavier, resignation. He had walked too far along this path to turn back, and there was no redemption waiting for him at its conclusion. When Macduff finally stepped into his line of sight, the world seemed to shrink around them. The noise faded, leaving only the two men locked in a deadly dance. Macbeth's lips curled into a snarl as he raised his sword, ready to fight until his final breath. "Thou art slave to fate," Macduff spat, his voice sharp as flint. And with those words, Macbeth felt the truth pierce him, not just physically, but deeper, where the wounds never heal. Their duel was swift, brutal, inevitable. When Macduff's blade found its mark, slicing through flesh and bone, Macbeth fell without ceremony, his crown slipping from his brow and rolling away like a forgotten relic. They say power corrupts, but that isn't quite right. Power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. It strips away pretense and lays bare the rawest parts of who we are. For Macbeth, it exposed a man driven by ambition so fierce it blinded him to everything else: honor, love, sanity. In chasing greatness, he became a ghost of himself, haunting the halls of his own making. And when the curtains closed on his story, all that remained was emptiness, an abyss filled only by echoes of what might have been. Lady Macbeth didn't live to see the fall of her husband's kingdom. Her body was discovered days earlier, lifeless and pale, her hands forever stained in the minds of those who found her. Some whispered she took her own life, unable to bear the weight of her guilt any longer. Others said madness claimed her, dragging her into oblivion piece by piece. Either way, her end mirrored his beginning, a descent into darkness spurred by choices made in shadowed rooms and whispered promises. As Macduff held aloft Macbeth's severed head, declaring victory to the gathered crowd, one couldn't help but wonder, was justice served, or merely vengeance fulfilled? The witch's prophecies came true, but not in the way anyone expected. Banquo's lineage would rise to rule, yes, but at what cost? Scotland lay battered and broken, its people weary from years of tyranny and bloodshed. Peace would come eventually, but scars always linger beneath the surface, whispering reminders of battles fought and lives lost. Macbeth's tale is not just about ambition or greed, it's about humanity itself. We crave greatness, yearn for purpose, seek meaning in our fleeting existence. But when we lose sight of who we are in pursuit of these desires, we risk becoming monsters to ourselves and others. His tragedy serves as both warning and mirror, reflecting the darkest corners of the human soul. To look upon it is painful, even unbearable at times, because we recognize pieces of ourselves within it. That recognition hurts, and perhaps that's why it lingers, long after the story ends. So let us remember Macbeth not as a villain, nor a hero, but as a man undone by dreams too vast for his grasp. Let us carry his cautionary tale close, not as a lecture, but as a quiet reminder of the fragility of morality, the seductive pull of power, and the price of hubris. For in the end, we are all walking the same tightrope, balancing between light and shadow, hope and despair, creation and destruction. One misstep, and the fall is infinite. Feel like you're meant for more, but don't know how to get there? You're not alone. Every success story starts with doubt and a spark. The Self-Made Millionaire, Zero to Wealth isn't just a book. It's your roadmap to purpose, confidence, and success, built on real lessons from real millionaires. One reader said, "It didn't feel like a book. It felt like my future talking to me." Inside, you'll find the exact mindset and principles used by the world's most successful people. No fluff, just real, life-changing wisdom. Ready to take the first step? Get it 100% free. Just subscribe and comment "book" below.